Hey, welcome today. Good to have you. Today we're going to be continuing our devotional on the 23rd Psalm. Today we're going to consider verse 5. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. And I think I'm going to enjoy this one in particular because we'll be eating again. And not just green grass, but as I picture this verse, I am seeing a long table, a banquet table, a buffet, a smorgasbord, just filled with all kinds of goodies. Knowing that our God likes us to have a balanced diet, I'm sure there are Brussels sprouts and broccoli there somewhere, but just a table that is just bountifully prepared, a veritable feast. And what's interesting here is that it says that it's done in the presence of our enemies. And we just talked the last couple of days about being in the valley of the shadow of death. Yesterday about the rod and the staff of the shepherd used to fend off predators, those who would seek to pull us away, to kill us. I spoke about false teachers as wolves in sheep's clothing that would try to deceive the flock and pull them in the wrong direction. And so now the setting, we're no longer in those deep, dark valleys, but we're sitting in front of a banquet table in full view of our enemies. And when I think about the history of Israel, I can see how this operated with God's chosen people. They thought they were chosen because God liked them best. He was their favorites. But I think that with God's blessing came a tremendous amount of responsibility. I think it was God's plan to use this people, this small people in this small land, to show the rest of the world what it meant to live a godly life. And the results of that, the blessings that come to us when we do obey God and walk out His commandments. Unfortunately, it didn't always work that way with Israel. There were times, I'm thinking in particular about the early reign of King Solomon, when he was just blessed because of his wisdom and his obedience to God with tremendous wealth. When dignitaries came to Israel, they were overwhelmed with the grandeur of his kingdom, with the prosperity in their fields and every aspect of life. Israel truly was a testimony to the world. Unfortunately, in most of her history, she was not. She disobeyed God constantly, followed after false gods and religions. And God took these very pagan people who were to witness what a godly kingdom was like and used them to discipline and to punish Israel for her disobedience. But my thinking has changed a bit about this verse over the years. I used to see it somewhat as a nya, 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 to the enemies of Christ and the church. Yeah, you're trying to undermine our faith. You're trying to remove us from the public sphere, kicking us out of schools and government and so forth. Well, you just wait and see how much our God blesses us. You try to hurt us, our God is going to bless us all the more. And as I said earlier, I think God does want the world to see, even today, the blessings that come to His people for their obedience. But I see another dimension to this verse, and that is that God's blessing us in the presence of our enemies as an opportunity for us to be a blessing to our enemies. Jesus often spoke about not returning hatred with hatred, but with love. He told us to pray for our enemies, to love our enemies. If my enemy comes and asks for my coat, I'm supposed to give it, and my shirt as well. We are, as a people, commissioned, I think, to show love and blessing to the world. And so now I'm looking at, as I said, this verse in the 23rd Psalm in a little different light. How can I bless those, in fact, that have hated me? How can I return kindness for hatred, and compassion for anger and bitterness and so forth? And I think that looking symbolically at this verse, I don't think it's just talking about food. Especially in this country where we're blessed with so much material things, and that includes the unsaved as well as the saved. There are other things that people are desperately looking for peace and fulfillment and satisfaction, for love and for acceptance. And I think that part of this banquet table that God has prepared for us includes those things. That we are to show the world what a Christian community is really like, our commitment to one another and to our God, the care that we're going to show to one another, and our willingness to share, even to the point of hurting, not only with one another, but even for those who, in fact, hate us. A lot of the world is looking for the very things that are in the church, the peace and the joy. In fact, there's so much pursuit over material things, I think, in a quest to find satisfaction in one's soul. So maybe this is something new for you, but I just ask you to consider it again as an opportunity for us to be a blessing to those that would even seek to kill us. The last point I want to make is that it has to do with looking at the 23rd Psalm as kind of a progression, as a walk, as going from point A to point B, that we began, having our needs taken care of, having some of that healing, things that I know happened early on in my life as a Christian. And then I spoke about the shock of seeing the paths of righteousness and understanding that my life had to change, and bad habits had to go, and that I had to live a life that would give glory and honor to God. And then the difficult times coming, the valley of the shadow of death, learning to trust God, learning to accept and appreciate and understand, the protection that He provides, that we can walk without fear and anxiety because our Good Shepherd will care for us. Then we come to this passage about the banquet table. And I know I've met believers who probably couldn't attest to having seen a banquet table in their life. And, maybe we need to think about where we've been, what we've been doing. Are we walking that walk that He has given to us? Are we dealing with bad habits? Are we learning to trust God and to be joyful even in difficult circumstances? And then we know that banquet table and those opportunities to bless others will come. So that brings us kind of to the end here of verse 5. We're to continue tomorrow, partially in this theme again of God's abundance, when we look at our cup to overflowing. Again, an opportunity for us to reach out beyond ourselves to others. So I thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you can join me tomorrow. Bye-bye.